I saw what I saw!
I saw what I saw, but no one believes me.
We all grew up hearing stories. Some of these stories inspire, amaze, and guide our growth, and others offer stark warnings of hard lessons not to be repeated. But most of these stories we hear from our families stay just that, stories. But imagine hearing a story so fantastic it surpassed your wildest imagination as a child. And instead of fading into the background as you grew older, the story captured you. And more of its truth got revealed with each passing year. This is Indi Hopkins' story. Welcome to Mother Said, Look Up.
I always had the sense that I was the black sheep and I just never really fit in. And I was weird. I just was the easy target. And that started when I was like really young. My parents were doing the best they could, but they were young and stressed and had 4 kids and were just trying to kind of hold it all together around money, and there was a lot of financial stress. So also there was already an awareness of a lack of connection with my dad. My dad, by that time, was a preacher. Yeah, Mom was kind of the glue that held everything together. Mom is magical. Nothing was off limits with Mom. Normally, Mom would tell me stories in the car. You know, that's where we would have time alone where we could talk. She told me that she was working in this warehouse in Erie, Pennsylvania. She was a seamstress and she was sewing, and she's on this line and there are other women sewing and it's really long days. So to have something else going on, she would have these headphones on that would had a little antenna and it would connect to the radio. She was just listening to music, and the next thing she knows, she's no longer in this place sewing. She's now in a man's body in shackles, with handcuffs around his wrists, handcuffs around his ankles, and there were guards on either side, 2 beside him, 2 behind him, and 1 or 2 ahead of him. And he was walking down this long hallway. It was a prison hallway. Such intense fear, she knew that she was walking to her death. And then the next thing she knows, she's back sewing. She found out a day or 2 later that there was a man who had been killed by the state. It was the first man that had been killed by the state in a long time, so it was kind of a big deal. Yeah. I was very curious as to what is this? Why is this? Where do these abilities come from? Why is it that some people seem to have them and other people think you're crazy if you have them?
Where did this all start to happen for you?
So I was down in the basement. I don't even know what I was doing, but I was 6 years old. I opened up the back door, and there was a wolf in our backyard, and he was huge, thin, gray and white, and he looked right at me and lowered his head and started walking towards me. I turned around and I started running back into the basement, but the wolf got through the door and I don't remember a thing after that. I just like blacked out.
Wait, what part of that story is missing?
What part of the story is missing? So looking back, I think that was a screen memory.
And why would you go there?
So I'm 8 years old with my mom, driving the car. My older sister and my 2 younger brothers, we were in the back. Mom told us this story that she was out in the front yard. She was hanging up clothes on the clothesline. All of a sudden, she hears this whooshing noise almost, and there was a UFO directly over her, like huge triangular craft, and she was completely transfixed, and then it was gone. I was just like, whoa. I 100% believed her, and it just kind of sunk in as reality, as like, oh, okay, there's a lot more out there than just what we would normally think. So I was 11 and I was at home with my mom and all of my siblings. It was nighttime, maybe 6 or 7. And the phone rang. My mom answered the phone.
Hello?
And I heard her getting really upset. She hung up the phone and she said, I've got to go. And she said,
I'm calling someone to come over and watch your kids.
Come to find out, Dad had gotten into a car accident. It was in an intersection. A big truck hit him. He was in a minivan. He hit his head on the windshield and got a traumatic brain injury. I had no idea how serious this was. After the accident, he was just really volatile. He was really angry and could be scary. And the most heartbreaking part of it was that it felt like any connection that we had before was completely severed. There was no connection. And in my 11-year-old brain, how I understood it was, okay, he doesn't love me anymore.
So nobody's really talking directly to you about what this all means. You're kind of feeling it out as a child.
Yeah.
You get to a reality checkpoint where you see where Dad's at. What changes?
This is tricky territory. That completely changed everything because from that day forward, it was no longer a happy family. Okay, so I am 14. I'm in high school, 9th grade, walking into German class, which was so over my head. I was not connecting at all. Dingy public school, like old building. The air was not circulating. It was just crowded. So I was in there with a friend of mine. Class had just started. We had just sat down, and all of a sudden I got this overwhelming feeling that something was seriously wrong with my cousin. It felt like imminent death kind of feeling, complete dread. I started crying, I was panicking, and my friend was really confused and was like, I don't know where this is coming from. I stayed in the class and I went about my day. I kind of pushed it down and convinced myself that that was nothing. That was just something weird. It was all in my head. It was nothing. So a couple days later, I'm at our house and my mom was on the phone with someone. And she got off the phone and told me that she had just gotten some news that my cousin slit her wrist and that she almost bled to death. Well, it all kind of rushed in really quickly that, oh, this is what they've been talking about.
So you're not just connecting the dots to mom, you're connecting the dots to other women in your family. Like psychic abilities?
Yeah. So I left the house as soon as I possibly could, and I moved a few towns away, 18, 1 week out of high school. Preacher's kid, fresh out of the house, just going hard. The first apartment I lived in, this was on dark side, so there was dark side and light side in Radford, and the dark side was where there was like a lot more like rough stuff. Hard drugs, people living hard, people dying. I was drinking really heavily, and I got into some harder stuff as well. I had started working at a tattoo shop while I was like an apprentice. I was learning how to pierce people. I was around like very rough people, and I was young and dumb. I just didn't want to feel reality anymore. So I created a new reality that was a lot more blurry and a lot more fun. I just didn't care. It got crazy. Like at one point I was homeless. Like I was living in my van in the winter. I started dating a guy at one point and he was rough around the edges and he ended up overdosing. He died. I knew that I was in danger for one thing because I had overdosed, but I survived it. The haze was lifting. I was working with therapists and I was trying and they were putting me on medication. Psychiatrists were saying like, you need to be on medication forever. Like I was told I would never get better. It was incredibly depressing, but I believed them. I had ended up in a inpatient care facility because my levels of depression were so severe that I was scared of myself. I had so much trauma that had built up and I had no tools. It was really nice. It was like a small building. I think there were maybe 8 patients altogether, men and women. It was round-the-clock care. I was not doing well on a mental health level. When I stopped drinking, finally, I hallucinated for a very long time. There was a 7-foot tall shadow being, a man. He had like kind of sharp angles on his shoulders. He looked like he was in a suit and he followed me everywhere. He watched me sleep. He actually felt like a guardian. I saw the dead a lot. I was sitting in the dining room area of this facility, and I was looking into the kitchen area, and I saw like this woman in this white dress. It almost looked like she had been drowned or something, like her skin was rotting like it would if, you know, you find a body in the water. And I saw her walk through the kitchen. I was terrified. I talked to one of the people who were working there. She actually said, "Oh, you're like the third person who's seen her." I had a therapist at the time who asked me if I thought that these things that I was seeing, if they were hallucinations or if it was actually like really happening. And that was really nice to hear, because she was the only person who was kind of like, well, maybe this is actually happening and it's not just you're crazy. I moved back in with my family. I was coming back a complete addict. I was completely broken. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't doing well. I was just trying to get to the other side of whatever this was. One day I was sitting in the front yard. The sun hadn't even come up yet, but it was about to come up. It was extremely foggy. I was sitting in the front yard at my parents' house in the Adirondack chairs, and I was just completely not okay. My mom came outside and sat with me. I was like violently raped by a man in NA. And I was like, I think I was still like literally in shock from what had happened. And this whole family of deer, we lived in front of a golf course. They walked down the golf course and stopped and made direct eye contact. This buck and a doe and babies quietly walked, stopped right in front of us, stared at me, and then walked away. And I knew in that moment that there was something bigger that was giving me a sign that it's gonna be okay and to keep going. Which at that point, I don't know that I would have made it without that and my mom.
No rearing rules to read, recite. Your cocoon arms held us tight. No need to forge expensive lies to prove that you are kind and wise. You like Coltrane as you improvise. Under the gaze of your loving eyes, we came bursting out like butterflies. Bursting out like butterflies. It's imperfect, it's innocent. It's a burden you always accept. It's fragile and it's delicate, but not hard to say, 'cause it's definite. We love you. When trumpets smile, you hear their sounds, and flowers from the ground.
It felt like there was something I had disconnected from using the word God. I called it the universe. I still call it the universe. But there were these moments, like really profound moments of like awakenings in the middle of like these huge transitions in my life where I was teetering on like life and death, literally, on multiple levels. I don't know how to explain it, but it was something so big. It was like such a big energy. I knew that it wasn't in my head. It was something like different. Things started changing slowly, and there would be these like little moments here and there, and some big moments. Like in 2012, I was walking down the beach, and I was walking down the beach on Oak Island, and I had a very clear, loud message come to me in my mind. You are supposed to move here.
So you moved to Oak Island.
Yes. So, have I already told you the story about the two orbs that came to the observatory with me and Tim?